We're almost there. Hello, YouTube. You'll see. YouTube, Facebook, I don't know. Welcome. Just glad to see you. Let me see. I'm sorry. She slipped out of the room. I welcome you, every one of you, as always, name by name, person by person. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for coming tonight and being a part of this very delicate again, but sensitive and critical discussion. And I'm titling it Roe, Roe, Roe Your Vote, Gently Down Extreme. That's a play on words and rhymes, but it's a serious point that shouldn't go unmuted or unmade and or unnoticed. When I was a kid, we used to sing a song, the roll, roll, roll your boat gently down the stream, merrily, 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 life is but a dream. So I found this from a lady that was at church on Sunday who actually came up with this phrase, roll, roll, roll your boat gently down the stream. And I thought it was unique, so I just thought I'd use it for tonight to talk about these critical issues. The U.S. Supreme Court is addressing two ironically different but similar urgent social and moral as well as legal issues this week. One regarding life and or death within the womb, and the other life and or death outside it. The Supreme Court has to make choices about Roe versus Wade and about gun access or gun control issues. These are very, very volatile. Both have to do with life and death. As a male, I cannot fully imagine the physical, emotional, psychological, social, spiritual, and philosophical changes, and challenges a woman has when becoming pregnant, whether she's married or single. We men can't relate to that, males, to the extent that we try to with our wives and our mothers. I have a mother, 4 sisters. My wife and I are not together, but I was there when my kids were born. I still understand her womanhood, her person, and I love her dearly. And my children, I have a daughter. And so I've been around women all my life. My godmother, my grandmother, my aunts, they were all very strong women, and all of them, except for my godmother, had biological children. My mother had 7 very painful and unpleasing pregnancies. The first child died. Nearly a year later, she was pregnant with my older sister, which was a very sickly type pregnancy, but all of hers were. She said they were miserable. She was nauseous and headachy and uncomfortable the whole time. So there are obviously any number of reasons women choose to end a pregnancy. I can assure you that using a gun to kill an unborn child is not something I can imagine anyone aborting a child would ever even consider. Though the Supreme Court is making judgments on both guns and the guts to have or abort a child. Saving the life of the baby or the mother, as well as the sanity or mental health of both, is a profoundly critical decision with obviously mixed evaluations. Take a good long look at abortion, take a good long look at women, take a good long look at reproduction, marriage, intimacy, romance, happiness. Where do you find it in any of these different experiences if you are a female? Even if the father is adamantly opposed to abortion, we men don't experience any of the physical drama or trauma to the body, emotions, and psyches of the pregnant woman. We don't relate to it. The Greek word for uterus is the word hystera, where we get the English word hysteria or hysterical or hysterectomy. This particular hysteria with women is unique only to females, who are the only ones born with a uterus or a womb and with ovaries. And sometimes we used to call them overreactions. Anybody around men say, well, your mama go crazy once a month. You never understand a woman. Don't even try. I've heard thousands of men say that. It's kind of a general colloquial thought. in the world, particularly here in America. You don't try to understand women, you never will. Some women feel suicidal during menstrual cycles, which we know are every 29 to 30 days. In fact, suicide, listen to this, is the leading cause of maternal death during pregnancy and up to a year after birth, called perinatal period. Post partum depression, stress, fear, loneliness, and even aloneness puts millions of women through their own private hell. So making a decision to have a baby or not have a baby is a weighty one in either way you go. And I think this is being, we're not considering this. I'm very pro-life, but I don't know anybody who isn't. This is some normal animals, but they kill or they die. Murderers are pro-life. They try to stay alive. So we take all these things into consideration so you can be pro-life and still be pro-choice, is the point I'm trying to make. And I've not heard a discussion to this degree on this delicate subject. I'm a big pro-life advocate. I've been for many, many years, but now that I'm older and more mature and more aware, I have had long conversations with not only people who work for Planned Parenthood, but I was on the board for the state of Oklahoma and Arkansas. Who would have ever thought after I became a radical inclusionist, I was invited to be on the board. And I heard discussions. I had never even thought of going to an abortion clinic or to a health clinic for women where abortions are performed. But I went through, I met the staff. Some of them were dearly loving, Holy Ghost-filled Christians who were praying with these young girls and sometimes senior women, older women, and counseling them and helping them through. And I was uncomfortable at my ignorance and my insensitivity to what women go through, not only when they abort a child, but just having a child. My mother wanted to abort me because my last three, my sister, my older sister, my brother, then the sister older than me, and my brother, their birthday is July 8th. They came exactly 1 year. And then March 19th the next year, I came. My sister and I are the same age for about 3 months, something like that, because they're born in July. But mother said it was horrible. I never felt bad that she wanted to abort me. When she explained why, of course, in those days, 1953, abortion wasn't legal. But if she was a different lady in a different situation, her mother, they were Holy Ghost-filled Christians, and abortion wasn't something they would think legally. But in a different situation, she might have considered it as a woman. But she did try to fall and stumble because she heard if a woman walked too hard or stumbled or something, she could lose the baby. Mom was trying to lose me. So I'm not saying, I could easily say that divinity stepped in and saved me. But did divinity step in and save Hitler or Stalin or Lenin or Donald Trump? Oops, I probably shouldn't have said. I mean, these despots, these arrogant, insensitive, narcissistic, self-centered, and self-serving, and the history is full of these totalitarian, authoritarian, very mean-spirited, violent leaders. They existed. God didn't kill them, but they killed a lot of people. Are the same people fighting abortion? And again, I stand for choice. Very strongly, almost equally as strongly in most circumstances as I chance for life. Anyway, 7 databases were searched up to June 2021 for studies that investigated the association between suicidal ideation and or suicidal behavior, the idea of it or the behavior around it, and psychological, psychosocial risks factors in pregnant and postpartum women. I never even thought about it. I've been doing, of course, a little research, as you know, I love to do on everything. Associations between abuse experienced recently or during childhood and maternal suicide ideation, attempted suicide, and death were consistently reported in this survey they had. They did the work. Social support was found to be less associated with suicide ideation, but more so with suicide attempts. A lot of people have the ideas about suicide, whether pregnant or not, male or female. The kids are doing it, adults are doing it, doctors do it, dentists do it. Preachers, I know preachers who have committed suicide, pastors. Suicide is endemic around the planet. And there's far more people who have the idea of it who never attempt it, and they'll never do it. Feel compassion for them. Many people are at the point they just don't want to live, and they don't want to bring somebody else, women particularly, into this hellish experience we call life. I've told you many times that I think life is basically a sexually transmitted disease or dis-ease. It's a tension, it's a stress, it's an anxiety. I'm a Holy Ghost-filled, tongue-talking, Bible-toting, believing, quoting Christian. I'm a pacifist. I love peace, but I know the misery of just saying yes, Lord. I know the misery of trying to pastor people. I know the misery and the agony of just trying to be human and humane, or human beings being human. That's why I'm into this whole inclusion thing and being less exclusive. In both Hebrew and Greek, the word Pharisee means separatist. I am an inclusionist. So I listen to people that I have excluded in the past, whether that's gay people, abortionists, non-evangelicals, non-Christians, atheists, anybody I felt uncomfortable with, I have met with. Wiccan priests who call themselves witches. I've sat with everybody. Nobody intimidates me. Honestly, my dad and I went to a house where a man was wrapped up in bombs and bullets when I was pastoring, and he wouldn't receive anybody but my dad and I. And I went with my dad, who had done that twice before. My dad took guns from men that were going to shoot their own mother, boys, young people. Daddy would go on. He had this calming, diplomatic way of approaching things. He was my hero. But I went with Daddy. I remember thinking, Daddy, I'm a young man just getting started in life. You've done this kind of stuff before. I'm in the ministry, and I promise you, I'll be faithful to God and keep it going. You go in there and see that guy. We laughed about it, but of course I went with him. The guy loves us to this day. I've seen him recently. But identifying women who have experienced domestic violence or childhood abuse and ensuring all women, ensuring all women adequate emotional and practical support during the perinatal period may help to reduce the likelihood of suicide behavior. Many Planned Parenthood clinics provide that service. They pray with the girls, ladies. They listen to them. They sometimes try to say, are you sure this is what you want to do? They often do this. Are you sure, sweetheart? Because there's adoption agencies. There are families waiting for children. Now, it's your choice. That's a powerful statement. It's your choice. This is my advice. This is things I want you to consider. But this is your choice. Taking that choice away from the woman is unjust. It's inequity. And some super extremist religious fundamentalists in all the religions freak out over anything that is apart from their traditions. If you want peace, you got to show peace and love. You got to show love and forgiveness. More Americans died, a lot of people don't know this, more Americans died of gun-related injuries in 2020 than in any other year on record. According to recently published statistics from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC. That included a record number of gun murders, guns, as well as near record number of gun suicides. Now, those statistics are there, but these same people that are anti-abortion are pro-guns, most of them. And most of them were anti-abolition. This same group of super fundamentalist Christians, especially like Southern Baptists. That's why the Southern Baptist Convention exists, because they were anti-abolition. They did not want to abolish slavery. Many of that same mentality still don't want to abolish slavery, even if it's the enslavement of women, intelligent women. There are nurses and doctors and I happen to know that some nuns have had abortions. And the Catholic Church is very anti-abortion. But there are nuns who couldn't stand the pressure. A teenage girl living in poverty, no support, she gets pregnant. I used to think that abortionists are just wild, loose women who have abortion, just want to sleep around with anybody, get drunk, have babies, and then kill them. I had that attitude. I've actually said those kinds of things. I apologize now. But that's the way I was, locked in my stagnant mentality as a fundamentalist Christian. To quote one of the most profound statements of Voltaire, as many admonitions, those who can get you to believe absurdities can get you to commit atrocities. Well, some people think I'm absurd thinking when it comes to the atrocities of abortion. Well, to bring an unwanted and unwelcome child into this world, and our adoption, our foster care programs are filled with them, thousands. And our prisons are filled with them because they were abused verbally, psychologically, physically, sexually for years. I've spoken personally to several foster children who are now adults. And they tell me that they were in, sorry, that phone should do. They were in 30 or 40 homes. They kept getting kicked out or beaten. It was horrible for them. And they have all kinds of psychological repercussions around that. Bringing an unwanted or unwelcome child into this world without the proper care, that's in addition to the trauma or drama or agony that the mother goes through when she's pregnant and her ovaries are not, all the organs in her body move around. Even the scripture, the Judaic Christian Bible says that a woman would have pain in childbearing because she mistreated her husband. The husband says, Adam, this woman thou gavest me. In the subconscious mind of most Jews and Christians, probably more Christians than Jews, but we see the woman as demonized. King James translated the word Hava, Eve, into evil, or Eve meaning evil, or evening, or dark, or shadowy. So we look at women suspiciously, and we treat them suspiciously. And now we're going to take a fundamental right from them to choose about whether or not they want to bring life into this world, where many of them are already miserable. Now, I know I sound more pro-choice than I sound pro-life. I'm adamantly, first and foremost, pro-life. And so are most abortion surgeons that I know. Well, I know a couple, but they're pro-life. So are the women who have the abortions, pro-life. But they're also pro their life, how they're living, psychologically, physically, circumstantially, financially, intellectually. What home, what are you bringing the kid into? And then when you do birth it, you love it. They don't always want to give the child up for abortion, for adoption. And many of them don't. And one of my best friends adopted his niece and nephew when they were infants. The mother killed one of them, and the other two, my friend took. And they were nurturing these babies and loving these babies. And then DHS came in and removed them from the loving people that had money, and he's a businessman, to support, and gave it back to the wayward father who was a drunkard and a drug addict, and put him in a situation where he really couldn't take care of the child. His grandmother might, or his mother, but it's in a totally different situation. I know the life in the home where these children, they were gorgeous, precious little babies, and they loved their new mom and dad. Then they took them away. You just throw them just because it's the parents' right to have their children. I understand that. But we have a system where you can put the child up for abortion, for adoption, but that doesn't always happen. And many times the adoptive family or the foster family is atrocious. Again, extremism, and I call this Roe Roe, R-O-E, Roe Roe Roe, your vote, not your vote. Gently down the stream or extreme. Extremism is fanaticism that stretches sanity and is usually a form and expression of not just mental duress or stress leading to poor mental health, but more likely outright mental illness. Extremism is a form, in my opinion, of mental illness. I've never seen such insanity expressed so openly, so arrogantly, and obstinately in our country and on all levels of culture, religious, and political forms. I've never seen it. And I've been alive almost 70 years. This is are you watching any of the January 6th committee investigations and interrogations and interviews and testimonies? We put a maniac in the White House, a narcissistic thug. And most of my white Christian evangelical charismatic friends voted for him twice and still believe the lie, which has been proven a lie by the liars and lawyers who were around Trump when all of this happened. This is insanity. These same people piously, because Trump put in too conservative, and Trump don't care nothing about abortion. He's probably paid for 1,000 of them, 100 of them, at least maybe some. But he's doing that for because he know you Christians, all little evangelicals, so fast. He knows that's what you want. But that same group that is so anti-abortion are so pro-capital punishment and own guns. There's over 400 million guns in our country, more guns than cars, more guns than people, and many of them are assault weapons. What is it? AK-47s and AK-15 or whatever it is. They tear the body limbs apart. And these people are for assault weapons. If you give your population assault weapons, they're going to assault each other. Is anybody surprised that we hear another report? We don't hear all the reports. They're killing people every day. And a lot of it's white on white crime. This is terrible. I've never seen it in my life. These are perilous times without question. Dr. Martin Luther King said, our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. So does our democracy, our republic, and our country at large. I know some of you don't like me talking about this kind of thing, but I'm not hearing enough people in my position addressing it so forcefully and directly. But I'm thinking about Dr. King's words. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. What really matters to you? A doctrine? A dogma? A sermon? A song? A church service? A religious presupposition? Or people? I was talking in our humanist service on Sunday at All Souls that I said to the audience that I think Jesus was a sacred humanist, not a secular one, but a sacred humanist, as am I. That's what I want to be remembered for. Caring about people with sacred reverence, the human being human. I can't help but notice that the same faith community that seems so fanatically pro-life tend to be operating in the same spirit and mindset that supported slavery and remained strong pro-gun, including assault weapons being allowed in possession and even carried on the streets of our country like in cowboy days. That's insanity. How do we get this far backwards? And where's the fear from? It's from mostly white people, Christians, who don't want to be the minority. Let me tell you something about abortion that I think many people haven't considered. 50 years ago, when Roe versus Roe, Wade was legalized, and abortion was legalized by the Supreme Court, white women, more than ethnic women, stopped having babies. They could afford to pay for their abortions. So they started getting abortions and said, let's don't have, like in the rural days when most people lived on farms, 80% of the population did about 100 years ago, but now, and 20% urban, now it's the other way around 20% urban, rural and 80% urban. Women said we don't need all those kids for farmhands. That's why many people around the world have had all these kids. Farmhands, it's property, family property, handed down acres and milking cows and whatever they did. Well, the women's white populace in general said, let's have less children. So they started having maybe one or two. People of color, particularly blacks and Mexicans, kept on having 4, 5, and 6. 50 years now, we outnumber white people. That's why they're gerrymandering the votes right now. That's why they're trying to stop people of color from voting. The Republicans will rather steal the election than win the election. I just have to say that. One of the attorney general of the state of Arizona said that today, being interviewed with tears, how Trump's people are so violent and so vicious. They assault Supreme Court justices. They assault anybody that doesn't support Trump. You don't hear that from the Democrats very much. I'm sure there's some out there. Those people who went to Washington on January 6th were violent mob, racist, bigots, arrogant, superficially religious Pharisees. 800 or 900 of them have been arrested. There's going to be more arrests. We can't let this happen. And here you're still pushing Trump in Oklahoma. I'm so embarrassed. I said that last week. I just have to bring it up again. I'm profoundly pro-life, and I don't know many people who aren't, as I said earlier, including my esteemed friend, Dr. Willie Parker, one of the few African-American Christian abortion surgeons that exist, with whom I've had many conversations about not only what he does for a living, but what he thinks while he's doing it. And he's a very responsible, trained, educated, godly man. He's not perfect in any way. He's a human being being human. His concern is less with actual abortions as the health services provided through Planned Parenthood beyond and besides abortions, especially for lower income women in smaller towns and the rural areas of our country. He did a lot of work in the South. Lives up in another state now, but a brilliant man, a godly man. We've had him speak several times at All Souls. We love him and respect him, and I picked his brain. I want to know. And but most human beings on the planet are pro or for life and strive every day to live as healthy and happy in existence as possible. Even murderers and huge pro-capital punishment advocates tend to be pro-life. Being so doesn't mean there aren't unique situations where death is a responsible choice, which means you can actually be both pro-life, as I said earlier, and pro-choice, and still be free and feel moral, loyal to human rights and human life, both in and outside the womb. You got to consider life in and outside. There are more people living outside the womb in hell or hellish situations, and many of them commit suicide. Every 11 seconds, a pregnant woman or newborn dies somewhere around the world. For mothers, complications leading to maternal death can occur without warning at any time during pregnancy and childhood. In 2017, according to the World Health Organization, over 800 women died each day from complications in pregnancy and childbirth, over 290,000 a year. Who takes that into consideration when a woman gets pregnant? Every woman that gets pregnant faces a possibility of death, and hers and or the child. Whenever a woman becomes pregnant, she faces the possibility of either dying herself or losing the baby, or both. Consider that. Likewise, for newborns, the first 28 days of life, the neonatal period, are critical for a child's survival. Children face the highest risk of dying in their first month of life. In 2018, 7,000 newborn babies died every day. 2018. About that happens now. About a third died on the day they were born, and nearly 3/4 in the first week alone. According to the latest estimates on child mortality, newborns accounted for half of the 5.3 million under 5 child deaths in 2018. Nobody's telling us this. Do the research. People are hurting. Again, we must avoid extremism using ballots, not bullets, or bullying to accomplish the fragile unity we all desire, believe in, and need. I'm almost finished. I wanted to get this out to you because I've been saying for a while that the human species is being upgraded. There's a cleansing and a clearing and a correcting going on that's inspired by the universe itself. Global warming, climate change, some of these same anti-abortionist Christian conservatives don't even believe in climate, don't even believe in climate change. My mind went blank. Global warming, they don't believe in it. A lot of them don't believe in the vaccine. They believe that the pandemic is a hoax. These people have lost their minds. I mean, they're like idiots. I mean, some of them are very intelligent, very well-meaning, decent people who love God and love people, the traditional way, and go to church and read the scriptures, and they give to missions and help. They're generous, but at the same time, there's this other fraction, a part of them that is just insane. And it's based on their religious presuppositions and their idolatry. We gotta avoid extremism. Go to the ballot boxes. Go to the polls. Vote. I don't care how hard it is. I look at um, Pastor Warnock, and I know him personally, met him. Pastor Ebenezer, but he's the first black senator. And we have the first Jewish senator out of the state of Georgia that has gone from red to blue. And I think Stacey Abrams has a very healthy chance of becoming the next governor of Georgia. Some of you don't like me to talk about political things, but politics, policies, police, politeness, metropolis has to do with citizenry. You have to talk about it. If you're complacent, then you're complicit. If you're not addressing this, and I want you to like this, those of you who do, and subscribe and pass it on. Even if you don't like it, share it. Tell your friends what it is you think I am. But get it out there. This is an important message. Let me close with this. I'd like to keep this around 30 to 40 minutes at the most, but sometimes I don't because I write a lot of stuff. I don't always use it. I could go on with a whole nother lecture. I've got so much writing. And so because I get up in the middle of the night writing, I'm not kept awake by problems. I'm kept awake by solutions. I write stuff all hours of the night and day. I keep these computers going. And I believe like I'm downloading from the heavens, from a divine mind, a divine thought of some things that would help resolve some of the issues. We just need balance. The Adventure of Life, somebody sent me this today, my friend Rowing in California. It's by William Arthur Ward, and I want to close with this. The adventure of life is to learn. The purpose of life is to grow. The nature of life is to change. The challenge of life is to overcome. The essence of life is to care. The opportunity of life is to serve. The secret of life is to dare. The spice of life is to befriend or include or enclose with comfort and love. That's where the word inclusion comes from. The beauty of life, you can imagine, is to give. Give your time, give your talent, give your attention to worthy causes. Start caring more. Care about. Think about other people. I used to be very anti-abortion, and I am more pro-life than I am anti-abortion. But I'm not anti-abortion under certain circumstances. And I don't even like to use the word abortion. I like to use choice. A woman deserves the right to choose life. First for herself. And if she can't provide a decent life for the child with which she is pregnant or with whom, she has to reconsider whether she should bring them into this crazy existence that many of us have screwed up. So just think about that. I wish the Supreme Court people would not just be extreme in either direction, have these kinds of conversations. Are you hearing me? You know I love you. You know I care. I have a lot more that I want to deal with, but right now the crisis, when I see it in the news, the current, I deal with it every day, every week. I watch the news programs every morning. I watch the evening news. I study during the day. I go online and I investigate things. I'm very curious. I want to help. I want to be a part of the solution, not the problem. And today I stood for a young lady named Tyler who in Arkansas had a car accident. The police officers tased her, drug her, beat her, mistreated. She was 18 years old. And at nighttime, 6 or 8, 9 police officers there. Nobody was helping her, and they're supposed to protect and serve. We had a press conference. Attorney Burr from who did the Rodney King case in Los Angeles was in Tulsa today. 2 other very brilliant young black attorneys from LA, from Beverly Hills, were here in Tulsa today. We did a downtown press conference around this. I pastored that young lady and her mother for years. A few weeks ago, I was doing another press conference for a lady, a 70-year-old lady, who a police saw, a white woman who was giddy and giggling about what they call 84, which was just mental illness. She was in breakdown with a bipolar situation. She's a former preacher's wife, around the Church of God in Christ, a sweet, godly woman, never caused a moment's trouble in my ministry or any ministry that we know of. her life. But she was in breakdown, and they burst in the restroom where she had been extremely for 5 hours, locked herself in because she was having a mental breakdown. Well, you deal gently with them. You don't trace. She got up with blood. I couldn't even watch the video. Bloody face, and they drug her on the ground, and they threw her into jail for 40 days and didn't even put her in the medical ward. This is these men who are hyper trigger and hot minded guys. We need to slow them down. We got to slow this down. The police or police enforcement thing needs to be deconstructed and then reconstructed. I didn't say defunded. It needs funding, but it needs fixing too. Don't end it, amend it. That's all we're saying. That's a whole other subject. How I got into it, I just did. All right. I love you, cheering. You know I do. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your consciousness. Those of you who like what I'm doing, who understand and feel it, please go to the Cash App, $New Dimensions 2, and I can hear from you right away. $New Dimensions 2, and you can start giving. I'm almost embarrassed to tell you that not even 100 people usually give, but hundreds watch, thousands watch it in post. You think we're pouring in regular money, we're not. And there's a lot of things that I'm struggling with right now because I can't afford the kinds of staff and people to consistently help me with things. So I have to wing some of these things. My days of pastoring a big church with thousands of people and thousands of, my payroll was 100,000 a month, and I had all these people in my hand. Those days are gone, possibly forever. I don't need as much as I had. I'm not pastoring a huge church, except you are thousands who watch me in the internet whenever you do. Everybody doesn't watch at the same time. But I need to hear from you. $New Dimensions 2. Carlton D. Pearson. Make sure my name is on it. My little picture with a hat. John Beakey did that part. I need to hear from you because we got to keep this work going. I don't know what I'll talk about next week, but I'm a news buff, and so I'm into it. I think current events are current events, and we can hug trees and meditate and do yoga, and I do all of that, and I love it. But then you got to confront. You got to speak out. You got to speak up. You can't just be totally pacifistic. You got to put some work into it. I know you want to. Trying to inspire you. Thank you, those of you who I just saw somebody send a Cash App. Or you can do PayPal, you can do Zelle, you can mail it to us. Those addresses usually are on the screen. But thank you so much. There's the Cash App, Carlton Pearson, New Dimensions 2. And you can mail it here to Tulsa to 8263 South Harvard, Suite 521, 8263 South Harvard Avenue, Suite 515, I'm sorry, or 521, either one. Tulsa, Oklahoma, 74137. All that should be on the screen. I don't actually see it, but it should be. Again, I need paid staff that make sure all this stuff is taken care of. And but I don't get enough in to do that. So please help. I need your help. Need your support. And when you sow, you reap. And what you sow, you reap. You don't always sow where you reap where you sow, but you will always reap what you sow. I know that. I'm a living witness. All right, peace and blessing to you. I'll give you the rest of the evening off. Go find something to do with your life. Thank you. God bless you. Love you so much.